Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild countryside of Scotland, and for today's adventure we've come to document an old Victorian croft that probably actually dates back to even more ancient times, but it looks like the house has been upkept until potentially the early 1900s and then it was abandoned. But I'm starting this video here in the old croft shed where at one time the animals were probably living and like being fed at nights and stuff like that. This is the main hub of the old farm, and I came in here because the weather today is so extreme. I've just literally jogged about 1.5 miles along that mud track because the rain just started to come on so heavy, and the temperature today is 5 degrees Celsius, but with that wind blowing it's just so freezing cold, folks. So I'm in here kind of sheltered from the worst of the wind for this intro. I was going to record the intro further along the road, but the conditions were just too extreme. Check this out here, folks. Look how this wall has just fallen away. It's sad to see these old farm crofts just about turned into a pile of stones on the hill here. Think about the folk that earned their, not so much their living, but probably just they survived out here. It was their way of life. They probably were very self-sufficient, and it is right enough, they would have made their living for like the livestock and stuff. Often these old crofts were actually the first people who carved these lands with agriculture, drained the wild boggy hill land and created these green pastures that this time of year they didn't look so green because it's kind of wintry conditions still. And on this far hill at the top, when I was running around the road, I could just see that there was like snow and stuff like that on the faraway hills. Look at this old lintel stone here. Wow, what a cool old farm, folks. That is a scene of history right there, with the old barn over there where probably at one time there was a barn mill. Look at the old remains here where the door has been hung. In this episode, folks, I do apologise for any wind blowing down the glen here, but it's kind of whirling around. Once we get inside the main house we'll be able to see exactly what's going on. We'll be out of the wind completely. I just wanted to throw the camera on out here and show you what's like around. Look at this. Here's a live find on the video right here. It looks like this rabbit has dug up a piece of pottery, and check it out. How eerie is that, folks? Wow, look at that right there. That's such a crazy little bit of pottery. I should lay this somewhere like up in the house or whatever, potentially. That's what we'll do, folks, because it's just going to get wasted and it'll disappear if it's left out on the hill. I wonder what that's actually made. So before we head inside like the main house there, I just thought I would come in here and show you where the old barn mill had been mounted. We saw recently, when I was up at the top of Glen, we saw the old mechanism for driving the barn mill. It had been powered from a cow or whatever, or a horse, like walking around in a circle, and I reckon that's the same system that this farm here would have had. But like a lot of abandoned farms, those historical items with the actual metalwork and stuff, it's all gone, and that is how it's unique sometimes when you do find stuff like that. But there must have been another piece of machinery out here. Roughly where I'm standing would have been a round shed with the drive going in through the wall here for the barn mill, and you can actually see the circle. There's a strong gust of wind. You can actually see the circle here leading round, and this would have been the edge of the old shed. I just think that was the latest in farming technology, that sort of device for bruising their grain and stuff back in the day. And that would have been their hayloft. You imagine the horse and cart drawn up here at this door, throwing it up in, and there's still some of the old wood right there. Anyway, let's head on inside this little house and see what's going on, folks. Look at that for a scene of abandoned history right there, folks. Yeah, every now and again the wind just seems to gust through pretty strong and then it dies down for a minute. Look at these old windows, almost Victorian windows I would say, with the little square panes. And then it's roof, which shows it was a later roof probably put on a building which had originally a stone roof. And look at this, look at the wear on the front doorstep, folks, from the years of like the farmer going out and in. And then look at this, the flagstone floor, like a lot of Scottish farms had back at a certain time. Yeah, I think these other stones have been put in at a more recent time. Buildings like this were often used by the gamekeepers and stuff after they were abandoned. The estates use them when they're shooting and stuff like that. Wow, look at this right here, folks. This is like the little room, it's so interesting. I love seeing these buildings. Each building we go to is in like a different condition. Here, check this out, folks. See that piece of pottery that I found outside? We'll put it right here on the mantelpiece within the old abandoned building. Maybe the building will fall down all around it, but it's cool just to pick that up out of the mud and just think that was probably in this room. Maybe part of an old piece of pottery that they were using when they were having their tea. Wow, hey, watch this roof. All the condition of these houses are just so far gone, and you can see why. The landscape around these places is constantly like damaging it. Look at the old lath and plaster right there. The wooden laths and then the plaster smeared over. But the interesting thing with this house, I can see details of the even older wall. I'll switch on this torch. This is a handy torch, folks. You just shake this phone here and the torch switches on. So handy for exploring. But look at this. The old wall behind, that would have been the original finish back in the day. Almost like a limestone kind of like render. And then years later they would have put this facing on, because these houses would have been developed and changed as technologies and stuff moved into the land. It's interesting because some of this house has got the wooden floorboards. And then look at the wooden shutters. They look like they've recently been knocked off the wall there, which is a shame to see. This is obviously what you had before you had like curtains and blinds in your windows. Wow, look at the shape of the windows and the way it's almost like falling right out. Sometimes these videos just document these places when they're at a certain level in their history. Before they're gone forever, you can kind of see how these places were built back in the day. Look at the wee cupboard. Wow, just think what trinkets and wares may have been stored in there at a certain time. The old wooden lintel is just hanging down. Wow. I just love seeing historical buildings, folks. Even these old doors, they're so cool. And nowadays it's just wild animals, I think, living in here. There's actually signs here that maybe foxes or some sort of animal living potentially inside, underneath the floor here. Because I think that's foxes' droppings on the floor. And look at the old mantelpiece, just the style of all that back in the day. Anyway, let's keep this adventure going, folks. The wind is just blasting in that window. Check out this here, folks. Oh wow, this fireplace and stuff is totally falling apart. Look at it, the sides off it. There must be so much weight of like animal feces on the floor here, folks. Because look, there's even like rabbit droppings and stuff there. All sorts of animals must live within this building, and it's crazy to think rabbits, they're like indoor rabbits out here on the hill. Yeah, look, the mantelpiece is just about falling off the wall. Just imagine that, this must be the little bedroom. Think of the fire crackling away there on the cold winter's night. Looking out the window over that incredible hillscape. Wow, it's sort of eerie in here with that wallpaper rattling. Oh, look at that, there's one of those old can tops. It's like the top off an old can of like Coca-Cola or whatever for back in the 80s. And then look at this tongue and groove like lining that you see in a lot of the old Scottish houses. Often that was put on in about the 1800 period as another level of insulation. sometimes they would have this instead of lath and plaster, but it looks like at a certain time this front section's been repaired with that compared to all the other walls here. Anyway, let's head on through to one of the main rooms here. Whoa, check it out folks, this is incredible. There's so much wind blowing through here, it's unreal. Wow, I'm just amazed when I look out the window and I see how cool the view is, and I can see the sun's almost actually shining at the top of that hill, which means I wouldn't have to actually jog back. Yeah, look at this here, the shelves and stuff like that. When I'm looking around in these places, I just look at everything. I can't take it all in often. Sometimes when you're recording something, you think you've taken your time to look. Whoa, there was a beastie total flying around there. But yeah, sometimes you think you've taken your time to look like at the history, and then it turns out like all the footage you've got is like just 2 or 3 minutes, whereas you think it's like 10. This is so eerie in here, folks. Yeah, I'll be real with you folks, this is a spooky little house, to be honest with you. Look at this is like the wee outhouse. Oh look, the wee kitchen sink. Check it out folks, I love that. It's like an enamel sink unit, which is quite cool to see, quite rare. It's obviously been brought in here at a different time, because I don't think this would have been their kitchen. Often back at these times when these houses were in their prime, they actually had an outhouse, so they had to go outside obviously to go to the toilet. But I believe with some farms, the outhouse was just often part of like the cow shed or whatever. Yeah, there's just a whole lot of debris, probably for the shooters. There's like chemical toilets and stuff, similar to what we've seen in some of the ROC bunkers I've been in. Wow, this door, getting caught on a nail. Yeah, this is almost for putting pheasants or something in for a shoot, because you see it's like a ventilated cupboard. And look, there's a wee kind of cupboard in there as well. Wow folks, crazy adventures once again. Yeah, this is like a little shed that's been added on at a later time. 1800's folks, this is just a little add-on building, but there must have been something here before. Wow, look at that lintel stone above my head. I just love to see it, the way that the weather kind of discolours all the stone, the way the wood just rots, the character of the architecture after such crazy, like a crazy amount of years. Yeah, like whoever's done this step, they've written a name in there by the looks of things. But that's getting more recent once again. And look at this massive fire range here, which would have been where they did the main cooking on the farm croft originally. And look, it's been fully plated with a metal at the back. And look, it's still got this which folds round. You would lift this up, this flap, and then this would hinge round. You hang the pot onto it, and then I'll switch this off again here folks, because it's a bit lighter through here. But yeah, you would hang the pot on there, the pot of stovies, and then you would swing it over and cook it on the fire. A lot of this is like a later addition. Somebody at one time's obviously been just trying to get a wee fireplace, probably so sparks didn't come out and burn the house down. But I love to see that, the detail with the stonework. And another interesting thing, this is actually an old cart axle, which was probably for like a horse's cart. Imagine that, the horse-drawn cart that they were bringing the hay in for the fields and throwing into that barn. This was most likely the axle which was on that cart, getting pulled for the horses. And I love thinking about that sort of history when I'm at these places. That's obviously used now to prop up this broken lintel on the fire. Yeah, I love the character of all this folks, with the mantelpieces, and this has been a massive range originally. Again, it's been quite a fireplace for the size of the cottage here, the croft house. And it's got all these hooks as well right along the roof. Wow, what a special place. I often say that a lot when I'm walking about. I'm like, wow. But it's because when you notice the details, you often imagine the people standing there or hanging the things on the hooks back in the day. You can just imagine how the farm looked when it was in its prime. Just imagine the conversations or whatever that went on in a house like this. Discussions probably about cows or sheep, or what the people at the neighbouring croft may have been up to. Check this out here, look, there's actually a little key hanging here on the hook. And that's maybe the key for the old shed, whereas that door no longer remains. Now look at this here. Wow. Super eerie. Wow. Oi! Look at that, the shadows moving up there. If that isn't the scene of a horror movie right there, folks, I don't even know what is. But that's the sort of adventure we're bringing on the channel. It's houses from all eras, spooky scenes like that with the whatever's fluttering in the wind up there. So eerie to see, but it's cool just to see how there's been a wee stair carpet there at a certain time, a couple of upstairs bedrooms, a little banister, but there's no way that I'm risking the stairs here because there's absolute massive holes in them. Yeah, folks, here's the torch. Yeah, look, there's actually a folding deck chair below there. Somebody's tried to climb up, but it's super dangerous because if something like that fell down, it could bring more of the house down with it. And then you would end up lying in a tangled mess of debris, which wouldn't be good, folks. Anyway, let's keep this adventure moving. It was just a fun adventure coming out on this hill, but I didn't know I would have to battle through a crazy rainstorm to get here. But see now, it's cleared up and it's kind of looking amazing outside. It's kind of between one of these gusts of wind, so you can get a proper look the way down the Glen Moy. Such a beautiful little Scottish glen, totally remote. It's probably like 2 or 3 miles from here, to probably 2.5 to 3 miles to the main road from here. And it's just literally a dirt track over the hill to get to a place like this. And I just love to see it. That's the upstairs bedroom. You can kind of see the floor and everything's so badly damaged on it nowadays. It's obviously totally gone. So even if you did get up those dodgy stairs, it would be dangerous to even walk about and explore it up there. So the reason I think it's most likely 1800s in its prime, for its last like years of being in its prime, it would have been the 1800s, because you can see there's no electricity in these buildings here, no lights, no plug sockets, and also no sanitation. Like there's no toilet here that you could flush and it would take the sewage away. And that's the reasons that these places do end up being abandoned. The landscapes themselves. It costs so much money often to get electricity out to these remote places. After a certain amount of years has passed, like so much money needs to be invested into the property to get it back to a stable condition that it's just financially not viable most of the time. You would have to pretty much gut this right out and do serious masonry work, and then you're basically starting from scratch at that point. That's the sad story with these old crofts and the old croft houses. Even the land itself is just like super boggy. It's all like bog grass and stuff out there. And there's just this old tree and stuff. And this must have been the garden, the farmhouse garden out there at a certain time. Yeah, that's been so cool to see this house though and just take it all in. It's so peaceful as well. When I come to these places, there's often not a sound apart from me and like the wind out there blowing through all like the old parts of the house. You just hear them rustling and moving. And I don't think I mentioned it when I was through here, but this stove, this gas stove here, will be a later addition here to the house. look at those old shelves as well. And this has almost been like a false cupboard here. Not unless there was a door which took you out through to the shed. The sun in this room, folks, that just is so eerie today. Like, it's creeping me out a little bit. And I can't lay my finger on what it is. Every time I come in this room, it's like I keep looking over my shoulder. But that's another thing that I love about these adventures to these ancient locations. Sometimes if a house looks scary, you try and get like scared. But at the end of the day, it's probably the structural integrity of the building you should be most scared of in these places. Yeah, look, on the shelves here, there's actually some stuff. It must have been the gamekeepers when they were having their tea. Look at that, the pint glasses. And the mugs. And then look here, they've been having the Heinz Farmer's Market. It's probably still okay. You could eat that if it's in a tin, potentially. Yeah, it's often amazing what little trinkets lie within places. I could only imagine the rats would be up trying to chew into some of that if they knew there was edible food up here. But it looks to me like there's definitely foxes live in this place. Judging from that there, the heaps of fox dung which seem to lie within. So there we are, folks. This house is starting to rustle and bang with the wind. The wind seems to kind of be getting stronger again, as if there's another rainstorm moving in. But we'll leave this place in peace. I'll walk around this opposite side. Just when I came in, I come for this direction. That's the way I'll be heading away. Just look at this, it's just so impressive out here on the hill. One of the spookiest little abandoned houses that I explore. And just look at this here as well. It's a little piece of farm equipment here. It's like an old grubber. And I think you could have pulled that behind the horse. I think there was like 3 or 4 of these that were tied together with these loops. And then, most commonly it would have been pulled with a tractor or whatever. But back in the day, that was probably pulled originally with a horse. Wow, see that? I've just come around this corner of the building, folks, and it's like such a difference in the wind already. Oh, I can see a massive hare. It wouldn't come out on the camera, but the massive hare just running across the hill there. So at the back of this house you can see the little bedroom window here, and it just looks incredible. Look how eerie it is, or even just the abandoned character of that, folks. That's what I love about these adventures. And wow, that wind is just gusting so strong here. You can see all this bog grass here. This is all a sign it's proper and marshy. Originally, when this farm was in its prime, that would have all been drained. The ditches would have been cleaned out. And the land, this would have been the main farmhouse land here. You can actually see there's like a wee circle of stones here. I'm not sure if that's been a later, maybe somebody camping here or whatever. It would be an amazing little camping spot this in the summer. Probably if the weather wasn't so extreme and ferocious out here. Anyway, folks, what an adventure that's been. Out here in the wild lands of Glen Moy. Yeah, look at this. That little door that I said was like a fake cupboard. Look, it's come out here at a certain time. And look, there's little steps down there. And then this little side building's had a wee fireplace at the end. So that is interesting. This is like a little added on little side bedroom with a fireplace and a little window. But there's no door from here that takes you out, so you would always have to go through the house. And it's just had a wee roof. It's been like a little side room. Wow. See, that's the sort of detail that I love to see. And then look how the dry stone dyke is built differently to the construction of the house there, folks. The different size of the stone, but also the way they're cut, the way they're assembled. And then you can see how this dyke line curves around. But this must be evidence here of where they originally drained the land. Look at it, these massive stones all lined up. And then that deep channel. Oh, look at what that looks like. There's actually little steps there. So I'm not even sure what that's been. Here, that could be interesting. This is maybe the site of their old outhouse. Let's investigate, folks. I do apologise for the wind at this point in the adventure. Whoa! I nearly slid. Wow, look at that! The water's bubbling out of there. Literally out of the ground. And then it's flowing out down there as well. That's incredible. That's probably the purest of Scottish water coming out of there. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's been. There is definitely little steps down to there, and there is a flow of water. So it would have been an ideal position probably for an outhouse originally. And it's cool to see there's still a bit of the old door frame left in the barn. Anyway, I'll end this video where I started, folks. Next to this massive lintel, in the sheds here of this ancient farm croft, in its prime most likely in the Victorian era, overlooking this beautiful landscape of Glen Moy, out here in the wild hills of Scotland. But I'm going to end this one here, folks. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon with the next adventure, when hopefully I'm out of this crazy windstorm which has been happening recently, folks.